and then what happens is it freezes and I get confused. I know I only made a video yesterday. I've been a bit unwell today, so I've been in bed most of the day. And even though I said I wouldn't because I've watched something like it previously, I watched Oprah's Dark Girls, and it comes on her own, literally her own, OWN, Oprah Winfrey's network, station across the water. There are various reasons why I said I wouldn't watch something like this again, just because I know that by watching it and even making this video now, I perpetuate that stereotype that, you know, I keep frothing the issue that I think shouldn't be an issue anymore, on the basis of light skin versus dark skin within the black community. And the only reason I'm discussing within the black community is because that's all I know. I stayed in India long enough to know that it's a problem there also, but I'm not Indian, so I'm not going to talk about that. And I've never had reference for it being in other races, so I'll just stick to what I know. Like I said I wouldn't watch this stuff because I think to myself, it's 2013. Am I really, are we as people still having this conversation? The only difference now, the only tipping point is that I'm expecting a child. Okay, that's, everyone knows that. I'm expecting a child from a dark-skinned man. The father of my child is the same complexion as me. Now, maybe if I was pregnant for a white guy, I wouldn't be having this conversation because I can't foresee their skin tone being a problem, and that in itself is the problem. But because I think to myself, do you know what? This is still an ongoing issue that is clearly going to affect my child. It's something that I need to take into consideration. So, you know, the documentary goes as so dark girls feel less than and not as pretty and not as smart, and you know they do that doll test for the little girl and she picks the white doll as being the cutest and the most intelligent. And I was sitting there feeling good. I was like, well, hell, I've never had those kind of problems. Like, I don't think I would ever do that. And then I was like, girl, pause. Now, in hindsight, my first best friend, Jadelle McLeish, she was light-skinned and she had hair that would do things on her command, which mine wouldn't. I was 4. We kicked it until I was about 8. And then I moved schools. And then my next BFF was white. Like, we actually called her Snow White, Joanna Jeffrey. And then moving to secondary school, that best friend was a replica of Jadelle McLeish, April Walker, who was fairer skinned. And I never thought to myself, I never thought about how being at school, being around other children, affected my psyche towards being dark skinned. Because let me tell you the truth, that shit never happened in the house. It never did. And what's weird about, I don't know, and that's probably because my nan is darker than me and she is cut like a gazelle, like her cheekbones are through the roof. But then my granddad is very, very what? I'm not answering that. And I have to wait for it to stop ringing. Anyway, my granddad is very, very what we would decipher as red or high yellow. He has very light skin. And so it never occurred to me that being dark was a problem or being light was a problem, because I was constantly surrounded by a plethora of black people who were different complexions. And no one ever told me that being dark skin was a thing until I got to school and other people made it a thing. And without knowing it, I took it to heart, because looking back, I have surrounded myself with girls who are a total opposite spectrum of me to protect myself. Like, I didn't, while it would hurt being referred to as the ugly friend, I knew that having a kinship with them would save me, kinda, sorta, you know? if that makes sense. But there are times now where I reflect when things began to change, and this is why I wanted to talk about it on this blog, because as a parent to be, and as someone who has been parented, I noticed that these changes involve my dad. I remember one time we were watching news on ITN Channel 3, and that girl, you know who I'm talking about, that chocolate girl, she's kind of thick, heavy set, but she fine. And I remember my dad was leaning back in his recliner, as he does, and he was like, oh my God, what I wouldn't do for her. Her skin is amazing. It's like melted chocolate. Oh my gosh, Candice, her skin reminds me of yours. And he didn't look at me when saying that. He didn't mean it like, he didn't even know that he was validating something within me. But all of a sudden, everything went clack, clack, clack. You know, all the cogs went into position, and I was like looking at myself like, yeah, kind of nice. And from that day, literally from that moment, I began to walk a bit differently, because having a man validate me, my dad say those things, eradicated all the bullshit that boys who are going to grow up to look exactly like my dad were telling me at school. So I was able to rubbish that. I was like, one day you're going to grow up to be a big man and see what you've been missing. I lie. Anyway, a couple of years down the line, I decided to shave my head when 15. And this was before shaving your head was a trend. This is when shaving your head specifically meant you were a lesbian, or you had a really bad perm job and you had to let go of that shit. And obviously, the reason I shaved my head was I was walking across the road one day in New York. I was on holiday with my mum, and this woman, and this was a woman, not no gyal, woman, had a shaved head, and literally I watched the entire street just move with her. It was as if she was like a current. She was feeding that street, and I was like, my God, what do I have to do to possess that level of self-confidence? And the only thing I could think of was replicating how she looked. And I remember coming home being jet-lagged, and I had to walk to 3 different barbershops within Brixton, because their argument was, why are we going to cut your good hair even though I'm paying you to do a service? But that's neither here nor there. And then I remember what a big thing that was, me shaving my head. You know, it was a big thing at school, because this is pre-Amber Rose. This isn't something you do for fun. And then when I saw my dad, he was like, you know, this look is strong, but you're going to really struggle finding a guy who likes that, because that's just not what guys want. Like, they want something they can run their hands through. And so once again, I was so confused. I was like, number one, even if I still had my hair, let's really break it down, my unpermed, untrimmed, untreated hair, you couldn't run your hands through that shit, because it's like cotton wool. And I'm not ashamed of that, but that's just, you never liked me to start with. So really, are we going here? Like, I can't even do something that I thought was me marking myself. And that's when I made the decision to be like, you know what? I have to stand on what I think is pleasurable to my eye. I have to decree that my skin colour is great. I have to decree that the way I choose to wear my hair is what's suitable for everyone else to enjoy. Because if I constantly allowed myself to be jigged about by my father's comments, any other guy's comments, females' comments, I think I'd be a hot mess right now. And these are things that unfortunately I never got to discuss with my dad. But watching the documentary Dark Girls has reminded me how important it is going to be to reinforce my child's idea of beauty, and it has to be one that looks like them. I'm not saying we don't live in a multicultural, multi-ethnic you know, all-encompassing, beautiful world. But on the flip, I am saying we don't. Because the reality is there's a very structured thin line for girls and men that look like myself that are not connected to negative stereotypes. And I've got to constantly, I don't, because I made the choice to, but now in raising my stepdaughter, in watching my brother, in having my own child, I've always got to remember what I'm saying and what I'm talking about and the things I encourage and the things I reinforce. I would say that we need to get more dolls in the house that look like us. Now, I don't care if you're black like tar or white like ice. You need stuff around you that build your confidence. And I would like to see those solutions available in toy stores for kids, so that we are not just constantly confronted with an idealistic beauty that has no reference to who or what I am or could ever possibly be. No amount of bleaching cream, blonde weave, green contacts is going to decree me as Irish Barbie. It's just not in my genetic makeup. And I'm really excited about getting stuck into that, because it's not about being black power, it's about being power, period. And understanding that whoever you are or whatever you look like, you need to claim that. And you need to, and as if you're a parent especially, you need to constantly be on the buzzer and on the money with, how am I igniting my child and making them feel like, you know what, no matter what the blogs say, no matter what the news says, no matter what A, B or C says, I have built a wall sufficient enough around my child that your bullshit cannot penetrate their psyche, that whatever you say cannot pull them down. I think that's the point I wanted to make. So yeah, that's an interesting task, because it's a forever ongoing one. Like swearsies on Bible, I do not second guess my beauty now, and I don't know why that is. I mean, you know, it's just routine. The way I wipe my arse is the way I think I'm dope. And that's not to be egotistical, that's just how I get through the day. So there are many things now that other dark-skinned girls talk to me about that I cannot, while they can confide in me, I can't really connect, because I've attuned myself to be like, there's only so far you can go with that bullshit with me anyway. Because I'm not about to sit here and really get into a conversation about how, you know, we should be polarized or be having a brown paper bag competition. Some people have dark skin and some people have light skin. And I've seen some ugly light skin motherfuckers and some ugly dark skin, you know, and it's neither here nor there. It's about remaining confident in who we are. And then over time, hoping that blogs, documentaries, and people of my own race do not get off on making a pretty penny off this subject. I'm not saying that, you know, we can brush these things under the carpet. I'm just saying that constantly having a running documentary about why black dark-skinned girls are ugly only reinforces the idea that black dark-skinned girls are ugly. And then having, you know, and then the blogs reciting this, and then having threads and threads of arguments between my race. It's just like, hold on a second, do you not know that you're damaging yourselves? Do we not understand that we're doing this to us? Yeah. What was playing in the background was Chocolate, spelled C-O, I don't know, chocolate, but with a K in the middle. Yeah, I hope I made my point with that. I just wanted to put that out there.